Joey Drew Studios has released a message from Thomas Connor about the new Bendy game. Now, what he says at first seems harmless, but when you dig a little bit deeper, you will discover a horrendous truth. Watch on to find out why. Another Bendy game is coming? You betcha! Now, the first thing that you'll notice in Thomas Connor's teaser is the date for the actual tape. If you compare it to the dates of the previous teasers, you'll notice that the dates gradually get further and further into the future. So it seems that these teasers are leading up to the date that Henry finally enters the studio. But when is this date? Well, if you play through Chapter 5 and get to Joey Drew's apartment, you'll find a calendar on the wall that states that the year is 1963. Well, what does this actually say? You might remember at the beginning of Bendy and the Ink Machine that we receive a letter from Joey Drew saying that 30 years has gone by quickly. In our analysis for that tape, we mentioned that that is the year that Joey Drew started doing renovations in the studio, so that would have been around the time that Henry would have left, since it would have changed completely from then on. Meaning that 30 years from 1931 is around the time that Henry returns to Joey Drew. In other words, the year would be 1961. Now, of course, Joey Drew could have just been giving an approximate time frame, and that 30 years could have spanned 30 to say 35 years. It's just a little bit weird that he uses the number 30 in particular. Now, this has interesting implications because if you remember in our Wally Franks teaser, we suggested that Linda might be one of the possible protagonists for the new Bendy game, and it would make sense if, say, Henry entered the studio in 1961 and didn't come out for 2 years straight. She would have gotten worried in that time frame. On the other hand, we may get to play as Henry again, confirming that time loop scenario and possibly giving us another chance to explore different parts of the studio and get those answers that we so needed from Joey at the end of Chapter 5. Now, the first thing that Thomas Connor says is,
"Walls come out, pipes go in, dang walls go back in again."
This confirms that the pipes were built into the walls of the studio, making for a much more extensive network of pipes than I think all of us had expected. I've also seen a lot of confusion amongst the prodigies on whether the Ink Machine will actually feature again, and I think this is an indication that it will. It looks like, judging from the last few tapes and this one, the game will actually chronicle the development of the Ink Machine and how all of these new tunes came to life. Then Thomas goes on to say,
"Like banging your head on a rock over and over and over. First time, first act. 100th time, well, you just don't think much about it. That's what it's like working for Mr. Joey Drew."
I think that this is a really strange simile to use, and I think that he's probably just describing how painfully tedious it is to do the work that he's doing. It looks like Thomas is saying that it gets to the point where you don't even think about the work that you're doing and you just do it. And he gives a perspective on what it's like working for Joey Drew. It gives you a bad feeling, as if you're about to do something wrong. And funny enough, Joey Drew mentioned that to Henry at the end of Chapter 5. Joey Drew himself had a bad feeling about what he was doing, but he was so obsessed with making his dreams come true to bring these cartoons to life that he went through with it anyway. As for the new Bendy game, I guess we're going to learn a little bit more about how the studio was renovated and how the Ink Machine was developed. Thomas Connor then mentions,
"After a time, the dust settles, and Joey's played his cards. You just learn to go with it."
and I feel like this is along the lines of the description that Henry gave in his secret audio in Chapter 3. In that audio, he mentions that Joey is all take and no giving back, so it looks like Joey had the same sentiment amongst all his employees, not just Henry. Of course, Bendy is a horror game at heart, but it does look like the extension to the Bendy storyline is going to be a really, really dark one. Thomas goes on to say something really, really interesting, and I am super interested to hear your thoughts on this as well, prodigies.
Bit of your soul dies with each pipe you put in.
How creepy is that? The talk of souls is also emphasized in the description for the video. And I think this is a massive indicator with the big blinking lights that the new story is going to go deeper into how the tunes were brought to life and how much sacrifice went into bringing the tunes to life. We only really got a teaser taste for it in the audio tapes for Bendy Chapter 5, but it looks like some horrors are really in store for us in this new Bendy game. After all, Joey Drew did admit to having plenty of souls to use in the process to map the cartoons to the 3D models. And honestly, unless something new comes up in the new Bendy game, I think that Susie was the first one to be the guinea pig for this process. And just so that there's no confusion, and I've said it before, this isn't a prequel, this isn't a sequel, and this isn't a Bendy and the Ink Machine 2. This was confirmed by the devs. So given that line of logic, I do think that this will be about the studio, Ink Machine and all. And also from that, I think it'll be in the time frame of Henry's adventure that we play in Bendy and the Ink Machine. Most of all, I cannot shake these massive metaphors that Joey Drew Studios is using to describe Joey Drew bringing these tunes to life. Bits of your soul dying with each pipe that you put in? That's pretty suspicious. And trust me, there's even more to it than that. Tap this video to learn more of it from Wally's perspective, or check out these videos, which we'll pick just for you. Prodigies, don't forget to pick up your Prod Cookie t-shirt, link in the description for extra theorizing powers, and I hope that this video helps to expand on how you think. See ya!